Welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm John Dykes, and today I'm joined by the cast of Bend It Like Brattbakk. Could you please introduce yourself first of all, Laurie?
I'm Laurie Ventry. I play Tam, or Tam the Bam, as I call him.
My name is James McInerney, and I play a guy called Nat in the play.
I'm Kira Lucchese and I play Maggie.
It's great to have you here. Now, this play, for me, the roots of this play goes right back to the early 90s, when Celtic were struggling to stay afloat. A gentleman called Jim Orr got involved in a fan movement, Save Ourselves. Now, what's your memories, James, first of all, of those bleak times in the early 90s?
Oh, I think for every Celtic fan, it was horrific back then. The thing that really sticks out in my mind is I remember, I think it was just sort of Jim's group sort of evolved into sort of the Matt McGlone sort of group, Celts for Change I think it was called. And I always remember Brian Dempsey standing outside Parkhead, I think it was maybe an hour before the announcement was made at Ferguson saved the club kind of thing. It was pouring the rain. I was like, this is it. The God sent the sign here. It's dark outside. It's pouring the rain. We're done. And I'll never forget just him standing there. He had a big sort of long black jacket on. It was soaked. He was completely drenched. And I was like, that's just a symbol of what's happening. We're finished. That's how close for me. I was like, we actually are going down the tubes here.
Mm-hmm. And we learned later that it was 8 minutes away from happening.
Exactly 8 minutes.
8 minutes away from happening when the cheque was signed. Laurie, when you look back to that, how far have we come since then?
We've come a long way, but I mean it was an amazing time. I remember that whole period as a roller coaster. Mm-hmm. There were so many highs, so many lows, ups, downs everywhere. And I think what Jim Orr has done brilliantly is reflect all of that. Mm-hmm. You know, that journey we took to that very last moment. And it's the last moment that I remember better than anything, because as I was saying earlier on, I always remember myself, Peter Mullen, Frank Gallagher, Jim Tordale, a whole load of guys ending up in the Arlington bar the day after it and singing joyous, happy. You couldn't believe it.
Mm-hmm. And we were so far behind it that Rangers were given an opportunity really to go on this incredible run of 9 league championships in a row. And Celtic threw everything at that. We tried to copy them because they got Souness, who was a player who had English football experience in Italy, and we went and done the same with Brady. Alright? Didn't work. They were chucking mullins at players, we done it, the players were duds. Yeah. And it looked as though, as you say, the lights were going off. We turned it around, but we had some casualties. Billy McNeil was the first casualty. We then had Liam Brady, Lou McCarry, Tommy Burns. And all of a sudden, this guy with a perm and a shell suit comes in for Holland's right. And the way the press kind of painted that picture was this guy was an unknown, and they'd done their usual hat-trick job on him. What's your memories yourself? What's your memories of that season, that campaign?
It's funny because that was kind of when I first got introduced to Celtic. I was only 10 at the time, so for me I didn't have all the dark days, I just had all the good stuff after that. Just going back to when we did, going back to this kind of what we're talking about, is when we did stop them getting the 10, I had, my granddad just passed away, and that's how he was the one that introduced me to Celtic. And I always remember he had this beer and he was like, I'm going to drink that beer when we stop the 10. And he never saw it. So I remember this day we were sitting in my grand's house, and me and Auntie Tricia, who's another big fan, and we sat and she had the beer on the day that we started. So it was really nice. So that's kind of my first memory of Celtic. So it's funny that you guys are talking about all of that. That was like
a great memory,
yeah,
to be introduced to the club. So you've seen a lot of success since you got introduced to that.
Totally. I know it's the base stuff as well, but not to that extent, I don't think.
Exactly. I mean, Wim Jansen, as I say, the press tore him to pieces. They've done their usual, they're still at it to this day. Right? I mean, the guy played in European Cup finals. He's back at Feyenoord. We had a Feyenoord fan over here interviewing them, and she was telling us about Wim Jansen. He's a liaison officer over in Feyenoord. The guy who won European Cups played in World Cup finals.
I think it's amazing. Reading about we started doing the play where this Wim Jansen thing was mentioned, I must admit, I didn't know who it was, because what was the
he played against us in the 1970 final and finals.
The game will go on to the goal when who is it that scores the
Archie
game was when Jansen's one of the defenders. That's the only contact I ever heard his name was. I didn't have a clue when they signed him. even though he was in the World Cup finals, I didn't have a clue who Wim Jansen was. I hadn't even heard his name really, apart from I heard Jansen when the Archie game will go, it mentions the defenders have skipped past Jansen. I didn't even know who he was, so when they signed Graham Souness for us, even being Celtic fans, Souness was a massive name in European football, and we're getting this guy Wim Jansen, so who is this guy?
And he was ridiculed.
He was, aye. The way he looked.
Yeah.
Well, because he's back, he wasn't a successful manager, he wasn't a massive player. The way he looked, it was just an embarrassment for us. I was like, it's a rocket.
He'd come from Japan, he'd been managing Japan,
That's right.
and the headline was he was the worst disaster to hit Japan since Hiroshima. That's what they got away
It's
with
funny
back
how
then.
you get sucked into that as well, man.
That's
isn't
the
it?
character in the play that I play, Tam, is on about that. I can't believe you're crazy, you. Look what he did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Turned everything around. That him and Murdo, just a godsend.
I mean, it can't be overstated the job they've done, because
No.
when they've come in, we've lost Canio, we've
Yeah.
lost Cadet, McStay had to retire, Peter Grant left about a month into the season, and he's brought a whole crop of players in, one of these players being the dreadlocked Helmut Larsson.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've been introduced to Celtic, surely he was the icon that you would have been fixed on.
Did we not sign him and Reggie Lincoln at the same time?
Reggie was in with the Reds as well,
That's right.
because we swapped him for the Canio.
Yeah.
And Reggie Linker coming, and again, how much did we really know about Helmut Larsson?
No, nothing. I didn't know anything. And again, his career at Celtic wasn't that great at the start.
Yeah.
I mean, the first few games, first couple of games, he was rotten.
Here's the thing for you.
right back.
Helmut Larsson's first goal at Celtic Park was against Celtic because he scored an OG in Europe,
I didn't know.
and his last goal was against Celtic for Barcelona. So it's kind of bookmarked in between the great stuff. But again, even then, as you say, the pass to Charlie, because he set up the winning goal for Hibs, Easter Road. And when you look at the comparison between the ridiculous to the magnificent, you can compare that to the goal he scored against St Johnstone.
Oh.
So that season was always going to be a comedy.
Yeah.
Someone was always going to change that and turn it into a comedy. I mean, what other points of that season stood out for you?
This is for me to get geeky.
I think the old firm games, all the old firm games that season, I think
All
because
significant.
just so everyone with so much weight attached to them. Do you know what I mean? You're just like, bad enough if we're going to lose, if they are going to go 9 in a row, it's the same for them as well. Even if you win the old firm games, it's sort of, you can get through the rest of the season. Do you know what I mean? Even if we're getting beat off at St Johnstone or dropping points against Hibs, if we beat Rangers, that sort of makes up for everything else, and it's pathetic seeing it because it is only still seeing 3 points you get beating them or beating Aberdeen or whoever, but you just want to. So I remember every old firm game there, I remember them standing out and like, please just let's do them. And that I wouldn't even, obviously you'd be gutted if they went on and done it, but just the old firm games for me had so much weight that season.
They did. Interesting enough, Janssen only beat Rangers once, and it was in a New Year Day game, the 2-0 game.
It was a draw. A draw and 2 defeats.
A couple of times. The first game was postponed because Princess Diana died.
That's right.
And then leading up to the rescheduled game at Barrowfield, Tosh McKinley sticks ahead and Helmut Larsson, right? Breaks his nose. Now, I've spoken to a lot of the guys from that team and they said that was the turning point of the season, because it was a divide between the homegrown players and the overseas players, and that cleared the air. Somebody to clear the air. But after that, we went out and got beat 1-0 from Rangers. Richard Goff scored the header, and he was giving it the 10 fingers up. You know, we were going for the 10. The tables have turned slightly, haven't they?
Oh, God, to that.
Here we go again.
I just hope that's not an omen for
Oh,
us
no,
now.
that's what I'm saying, I know.
Nah, I mean, when you look at that, the difference between Celtic and Rangers at that point, I mean, they were quite close. I think the last Celtic Rangers game there proves that we are still light years ahead of them.
Yeah.
There's a big gap there.
And I
That
think,
there wasn't at that period. I mean,
and I think the media, it's the media, like the two football clubs, it's the media that's closed the gap. It's not what Rangers have done. It's not what Celtic are doing or have done. It's the media have closed the gap. When you see it the other day, when you just put 11 guys on the park, Celtic destroyed them in every department. And that's in there at Ibrox, you know what I mean? It's the media that's made it say, oh, they're so close, they're neck and neck now. I mean, for the first time Celtic were going in there as underdogs, the media's made us out as if we were going out. Where is that? I don't understand where the confidence comes from in the Scottish media that can just make them favourites when they've done nothing. They've literally done nothing. Every cup they've entered in the last 3 years, 9 trophies. They've no one else, Celtic won the one, and yet we won, Celtic won there as underdogs.
But sometimes that's good. I don't want to go to top, yeah.
No, I think what happened there was Lenny played that perfectly.
It was
He took
brilliant.
that,
Yeah,
took
it was
that,
brilliant.
and he actually mentioned it.
Aye.
One of his
But
pre-matches.
that's because
Because
see a week before it, he didn't do any of the. He didn't mention about the underdogs at all. He waited till right to the last minute, and then he brought it back up, and then when it was beautifully played.
He's far more clever than people
Oh,
give him credit for.
Yeah.
You know, I've spoke to a lot of the guys who were involved in that team, and some of them reckon that Tommy Burns was too emotionally attached to the job. So we bring in Wim Jansen, who knew about Celtic but didn't have that same attachment. He had a job to do. How important was it, do you think, that he had a backroom team that knew the club inside out?
I think it was a stroke of genius, whether it was the board that appointed Murdo or the players had asked for somebody that had experience, but I think that was one of the most important things of the season, to have somebody that knew Scottish football, who knew the players in that dressing room, because obviously Jansen was coming from Japan or whatever. Nobody really knew what his English might be like, how good, Dutch obviously you'd imagine it'd be quite good, but you need somebody that actually knows the Scottish game, knows the players in that dressing room. So whoever appointed him, I think that was a stroke of genius to actually break down that barriers and just have somebody familiar there that the players can look up to and relate to, and sort of be that middleman until Jansen gets his plan across and gets his sort of formations and tactics. Because if a guy comes in from a foreign country with his own backroom staff, they're literally going to be trying to do it in the hoof, try and learn so quick. Never mind about learning just your new employment place, but you're having to try and figure out what the football system's like, how the media works. Whereas bringing Murdo in, it was brilliant. He could break down all those barriers right away and let Jansen concentrate on the management and let Murdo coach. Do you know what I mean? Which is brilliant, I think.
Yeah. And he knew how to beat Rangers as well.
That was
There was a few points of that season that I always look back on, one of them being the headbutt incident, which apparently cleared the air. The League Cup win against Dundee United, we went toe-to-toe with Liverpool, very unlucky against Liverpool. But then the New Year's Day game, I always remember Rico Annoni marking Laudrup at the game. The 2 goals for the 2 midfield players who were so important that season. When you think back to that New Year's Day game and the victory, did you think at that point we could do this?
yeah, I think you always have to. I think you always have to believe and get confidence from somewhere. As I say, that season, there's big chunks of that season that to me are a blur. It was only when I looked at Jim's play again, I was remembering, God almighty, how could I have erased that from my mind? So it was, I think as a Celtic fan, you've always got that thing, you've always got, we can do this eventually. And I mean, Jansen, at the time it seemed a strange appointment, but there was something about him, even with that comical sort of look he had. And the fact that Murdo MacLeod was there, I think that was a great stroke. Like James says, the communication, that ability to bring the whole, dressing room together, that whole thing, that was powerful. But again, until that those final moments, you couldn't guess. I mean, you just hoped.
They kept us guessing, didn't they? Yeah. I mean, a lot of Celtic fans don't like saying stopping the 10. They like saying it was us winning the 1.
Yeah.
I didn't want to give them.
That's another way of looking at it.
Well, that was a brilliant T-shirt when they did stop the 10. Celtic came on saying, we have won, and it was 10 in a row, and it actually the 0 crossed out. So it was one, so it was just a wee dig to say, no, we stopped it.
And yourself, Lloyd?
I was working at the time, I remember that. So, and I was doing a play that night, so obviously I couldn't go crazy. But I remember a feeling of being like fucking spring-heeled Jack. It was an ecstasy, a moment, a high. And as I say, the next day, we all went for it. That was it.
Absolutely. I just think after the takeover, this is what we were waiting for, and it took a few years for it to happen.
Yeah.
You know? And then, of course, 20 years later, he's come into contact with the gentleman Jim Orr, who has this concept of turning this into a theatre play. So how did you get to know Jim, and how was this kind of pitched at you?
Well, it was mad. Like, I'd received an email from Jim's sister, who I'd worked with in a couple of shows, and she said, James, can I pass your details on to my brother? I was like, aye, fine. So I got an email from Jim just saying hi, introduced himself and all that. And Jim had seen me in a couple of plays. He'd come to see a Celtic player, but Tony Roper had written about Seville. So he sent me an email, and sometimes you get emails from guys saying, like, you've never heard of me, I'm a brand new writer, I wrote a play, would love you to do it. And like, a lot of the times they can Keith, right, pure like rubbish place, right? So you don't want to commit to anything. So I was like, listen, I obviously gave him a bit more time because I'd worked with his sister. I was like, aye, send me the script, and I said, obviously I can't make any decision now about what to do with it, because I'd need to read it first to see what it is. So he sent me the script, and it was about a week later he sent me an email saying, have you read it? And I think I was working on something else at the time. I was like, sorry Jim, I've not read it, but I promise I'll read it over the weekend. I was like, right, I'll read half it today and then half tomorrow. So I started reading it, and I literally couldn't stop reading it. And not just because the play was that good, but like we were talking about earlier, you can through those games, like Laurie said, the games you'd blanked out going, my God, it was actually that close to that. And I kept going. I found myself laughing out loud. I was like, because it brought back so many memories. It reminded me of my dad, it reminded me of my uncle, it reminded me of my sister and all that. I was like, and I couldn't stop. And I literally finished it and emailed him, but I said, I think it's brilliant, Jim, what's your plans with it? He said, well, I was wanting to maybe ask you if you got any idea, like, who you think you would, if you want to do it, have you got any idea? I said, well, and Jim had suggested his sister gave him a couple of names, and I'd suggested a couple of names to him. He said, well, can you contact them? So I contacted Laurie, and Kira, I thought of Kira about it right away, but she was heavily pregnant, or she was heavily pregnant, so I was like, I didn't know what to do, so I was like, contact Laurie first, because see what he's doing, and I'd sent it to Laurie, and Laurie was the same again. He's like, listen James, I can't commit to anything, but if you're saying it's no bad, at least I'll give it a try. So he read it. He's like, love it, it's great, let's meet this guy. So we went and met Jim, talked about the idea, and Jim is an aficionado, he knows all the wee he's the guy who was sitting here talking about the game. And in the 67th minute he scratched his head and he flicked his balls. So he knows every detail of the season. So we met him and we got on really well, and he's like, let's try and do it. And then basically that was it. So I sort of organised, I sort of got me, Laurie involved, and but we wanted Kira to do it, but Kira was highly pregnant, so I texted another girl who's a Celtic fan, Carmen. She did the first we did a rehearsed reading of it, and again we were all sort of apprehensive because I was like, I love the play, but is anybody in the audience going to like this? It's 20 years old. A lot of people are like, no, that's too far away. Who wants to do it? We did a rehearsed reading of it, and literally the feedback. And we're on stage with the scripts, so I was just trying to do it as much without looking at the scripts, and the feedback was unbelievable. And Jim's been so clever because he's attached music from the 97-98 season as well. No Celtic songs, just music of that era. Mm-hmm. So people are, it's like a nostalgia trip, as well as following this journey of Celtic stopping the 10. The whole thing's just a great sort of wee nostalgia trip for everybody. And like, that's when it just sort of went from strength to strength from there.
So tell us a wee bit about the character you play in Bend It Like Brattbakk.
Tam Lyons, well, as I was saying, I got the play, Jim sent it. I read it, and I thought there's something in this. And again, just to hark back, the revelations about that season, things you tried to erase from your mind were all there. It was like a whole catalogue of a nightmare, of a roller coaster you'd been through. So over the whole weekend, I think I read it 4 or 5 times, and I thought, every time you read this, it's fucking better. It's better. That's always a sign of good writing. It was long, and then I spoke to James about it, and I thought, we'll go for this, we'll go for it. There's a sort of universal concept in it. It's a guy, Tam the Bam, who's this mad Celtic crazy guy who is actually like an amalgam of 2 or 3 people I know, Celtic fans, and all pal of mine, Jimmy Gourley. And what happens is he invokes divine intervention, willing to sell his soul to stop the 10. And that's basically how it all starts. But saying that as well, and there's all the stuff, obviously the stats and everything through it. What Jim Orr has done is write a brilliant sort of family dynamic within that, with him and the daughter Maggie that Kira plays. And there's also an estranged daughter. You don't see her. She's talked about, who's done well, who moved away from the sort of Celtic family. Because I'm always going like, she's not got what we've got, we go and watch this team every week, and so there's that sort of thing. But overall, it was like something I'd never read before, because it was something, you're Celtic fans. This whole thing was embodied within this family thing, and a guy at the end of his tether, almost insane, who's torn apart, whose wife leaves him, whose daughter's ready to walk away, his second daughter. He'll do anything to stop the 10, and then of course he invokes God and come and see the play. Divine intervention. And see what happens.
You've touched on something there. I was speaking quite recently to a friend of mine, and we were speaking about the people we know and what they've lost through their devotion to going to watch Celtic.
A brilliant point.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Relationships, jobs,
Yeah.
marriages.
That's a brilliant
It's
point.
People
unbelievable.
planning marriages round the season.
And Tommy Roderick didn't know. That's
Yes.
But that's what Jim gets. That's a great point. He brings all that into it. How far would a human being go to stop this thing or prevent it or whatever? And he's almost unscrupulous in that sense. Unethical. He'll do anything because he's so driven. But it's a great art. It's so funny. I always think comedy, the best comedy is about recognition. And that's what Tam is. You recognise what sort of guy he is, that whole thing. And
the sort
it's
of
a barrel of
feedback,
laugh.
we've got after it, because Tam's such he is so mental on the show. Yeah, every time we finish a show, somebody comes up and says, "Oh, you reminded me of my granddad or my uncle." And we all know these guys, but when you see it on stage, it seems so heightened. Like nobody's that crazy about Celtic, or nobody's that takes it to that extreme. And every single person comes out and says, "Oh, you remind me of my big brother. You remind me." That really is. It's just, as we know, it's in us, and it does something to us that we can't even control. Because Tam, that's a good guy, but just there's something in it that invokes this crazy.
takes over.
Literally takes over.
Basically, that season makes him ill. That's what happens in it. He becomes ill and iller until we know what happens.
And we all know Celtic fans that are lovely, sort of quiet guys in everyday life, and as soon as there's a match on, they become like a Jekyll and Hyde guy. Just a guy, what's happened to this guy? Man, he's off his head here.
And what about your character, MJ? Tell us
So
a wee bit about him.
I play this guy Nat Christie, and Nat gets he goes to Tina Park and he meets Tam's daughter Maggie, and he doesn't really know much about football or anything, and he's sort of fancies Maggie, and Maggie they end up seeing each other and goes back to the house to meet Mad Tam, and he just doesn't understand this whole concept. How can a girl for a start be this passionate about football, and then to meet her dad who's even more mental and more passionate about it, and he's just sort of stuck in the middle of these two people talking about the love of their life, which isn't their mum or their wife or it's Celtic, and he's just stuck there like this unknown, like, what is this thing they're talking about? This thing that's bigger than life almost. So that's the sort of character I play.
The thing is that happens as well. People walk into these houses and these families and they just think, wow, they've never seen such intensity over a football. But you even mentioned Tina Park, and that takes us back, talking about a nostalgia trip. You never thought at that time that would disappear, and obviously it has. And yourself, Maggie, you play Maggie. Tell us a wee bit about Maggie.
Yeah, so that's, I don't know what you guys were talking about there, but
just about our relationship
cool.
And the sister, who goes to London and does well, and we're sort of left.
Aye, and the whole thing is, so Maggie's Tam's daughter, and your character talks about the play how you've not had any sons and all that. So obviously he's totally indoctrinated my character to become another one of him.
And I sometimes wonder the extent that they're going to go to or are going to try and stop Celtic winning the 9 and the 10. And we've seen it this season. I mean, do you see parallels when you look over the other side of the city there?
Yeah, well, we've seen it exactly this season, in the last couple of weeks since the transfer window shut, that on deadline day they go out and spend £7 million, like we sort of spoke before about, because Celtic signed a £7 million player, we better go out and sign a £7 million player. Now, Ryan Kent, as we know, he did well against a couple of games last season, but basically that's all he did. It wasn't that great, and it really is that they're literally putting themselves close to going out of business again, just to try and compete or to show their fans that they are making an effort to stop this 9 at any costs. If Ryan Kent, I don't know the boy at all. I don't know his career or what he's like. I've not seen enough of the games he plays in. But if he was that good a player, Liverpool for a start wouldn't have let him go, right? And there would be other English teams sniffing about and putting in offers. I think they say Liverpool received one offer, but it was for £2 million from another club. Now, if he was that good and the potential was that good, there'd have been definitely Southampton's, your sort of lower Premier League teams sniffing about and snapping them up. But it's literally a panic buy, in my opinion, for them just to stop this 9 in a row. They're literally breaking the bank and putting themselves into serious trouble again just to stop a 9.
Right, we're now looking at Celtic going for 9 in a row this season, potentially 10. We've looked at what extent people would go to stop that, and we're seeing a wee bit of that this season. We're seeing the desperation, chucking money that they don't have at a problem, at a black hole. And one of the biggest problems, I reckon, is they've got a rookie manager. They've got Steven Gerrard. He's a massive name, but but he's a rookie manager, and he's seen his tactics board against Celtic, and it was all about owning the midfield and owning the ball, because he thinks they guys can do what he did. But he was a class act on the field of play. But he's a rookie manager. How impressed were you at Neil Lennon doing one over Steven Gerrard?
I think Lennon got everything right that day. Everything, even from the week leading up to the game, as we spoke about earlier, Celtic being underdogs. I think Lennon obviously knew that from the Monday, but he didn't mention it at all to the, I think it was the press conference just before it said, we're going into this game as underdogs, and literally left it at that. So already the mind games, he just ignored that whole thing about saying, just let the media print what they want, and almost like that old cliche, but let the football do the talking. Mm-hmm. And literally Scott Brown, Lennon had them so fired up that day, and that's what we were missing the last 2 games at Ibrox. We came out, we sort of sat back a wee bit. It was right for the kick-off. Brown in the midfield, McGregor tore in right away, bossed the midfield, and like you said, if on Stevie Gerrard's thing said, own the midfield. From the first minute of that game, the midfield was lost for them. It was lost.
You're right.
Brown and McGregor tore in
the
right
first
away.
game last season that we got beat where Rodgers was in charge. It was because McGregor was at left back.
That's it, yeah.
In the second game, Brown wasn't fit.
Yeah.
If you remember, he just
come back.
You seen the footage of him in the tunnel just before they go out? Have you seen it?
Of that game?
Scott Brown. And all the guys are behind him, and it, honestly,
this game there, he doesn't even turn round. He does not even turn round. He just like focus straight. You could tell you
just knew.
So Lennon's game plan just obviously perfection for what he did. Because honestly, I couldn't believe it. I remember the first 5 minutes. Like, if Hal even touched it, Celtic's got right away. But again, McGregor, that game they played him right or left back. He was our best player that season, and like. But I think a couple of games we put Johnny Hayes in that position, who done great for us, done great for going in. Like, why not keep McGregor our best midfielder? And that's what sometimes Rodgers is like that. Fair enough, he did what he did when he left us, but when he was there, he was quite tactically good and he made good changes. But sometimes like, you've got Johnny Hayes there. You've obviously played him that before and trained him, whatever. You put him in 3 weeks. Like, why did you not play him? Maybe thought it was just too big a game for the boy to come in and do it. But you take your best player out of midfield, and our best midfielder's no fit. There's a chance that you're not going to do well that day, and the result obviously proved that.
What I find interesting is they chucked everything at winning 9 in a row. We now know that. We know what we were chucking at winning that. We've won it, or are going to win it this season. And it's not built, it's not a house of cards, it's not built in sand, it's stable, the foundations are there. But I always look at a season or 2 ahead. What happens to Celtic after we've done the 9, after we've done the 10? Where do we go after that? Are we limited now? After the 10 in a row, let's say, as to what we can do and how we can progress?
I don't care, man. It's a good question.
It's a very good question. I don't care either. I presume we're going to win this season, then go to the next season, do the same again. That'll be it. What are we going to be like? I think
we should just chuck it.
If I can, P45.
If we do 9 in a row and we go on to do 10 in a row, I think we should just chuck it. Just to sicken them. That's us folded now after 140 years. We're just going to let you use a wee shot now. Aye, done it, aye. We're going to use a wee shot now. Let's just fold. That's what I would do.
Mm-hmm. Because it's so fresh in our mind, not just the fact that we stopped the 10 back then, they're going to try and do it. There's another run of shows, Bend It Like Brattbakk. Tell us all about that, where they're going to be and how we can get tickets.
So it's going to be at the SEC.
The SEC. The 18th to the 20th of October. There's 2 matinees. I think the shows are 2:30 and
2. So on the Friday, we've got 5 shows over the weekend. So 1 on the Friday night, 2 on the Saturday at 2 o'clock, and 7 and 2 on the Sunday at 2 and 7. And you can get your tickets from the SEC website or on Ticketmaster, or phone them up, or pop into the SEC if you want.
Are you expecting any of the guys to come along? I think Jackie McNamara and Murdo McLeod came to the last ones, didn't they?
Yeah,
we don't want to give too much away, but hopefully there'll be
a few of them.
Hopefully we'll get a couple of... We can't guarantee, but hopefully we'll have a couple of wee surprises.
We can guarantee a great night out, and it's a cracking play. It's really good fun.
It's very funny.
And if a player comes on or makes an appearance, that's an extra wee bonus. But just you need to come along and see it, I suppose, to see if there is any wee surprises.
Keep us hanging. Well, thank you very much for your time today. You might have noticed during our interview that Kira nipped out back and forward to tend to our little kid who was missing her. During that period, Jim Orr was looking after the baby. He's also the playwright of Bend It Like Brattbakk, so please
welcome, Jim, into the fold. How are you doing?
Thank you, Paul.
It's good to see you again.
Good.
So you've saved Celtic and now you're putting on a theatre shows a man you can do. And you look after kids.
Piece of cake, Paul. Piece of cake. I do.
How happy were you at the response to the first one?
It's taken a life of its own, basically, and that's down to these guys. I mean, it's a daft wee story in a bit of paper, but when these guys get a hold of it, I mean, every night, hysterical laughter, and it is a big leap, just going from Laurie and James and Caleb to from a bit of paper onto the stage. And as Laurie told me before, the fact that I've only done one play before, so there's nothing to go on. So I'm thinking, who wouldn't want to do this? Because it's so funny. But then these guys talk to me, tell me how the acting world works. It's like, well, you've got no pedigree, we don't know who you are, so we can trust you. And the guys read the script a number of times and said, yeah, we like it, let's just go for it, sort of thing. And I was thinking, who wouldn't want to do this? So it's a bit of a leap for me, because this is a hobby at the end of the day, and it's taken a life of its own. Because my big idea, when I was on a Celtic State of Mind before, I think I might have said, my big idea was as a kind of hobby, I'll write a play every year, and we'll stick on for a couple of nights, and I'll write another play, and repeat. But this one just took a life of its own, and we sold out the 2 nights the first time, and then we kind of meet maybe every month or two or something. And these guys are actually far more passionate than me, possibly, about the play. You know, and I'm thinking I'm passionate, but these guys are on a different level. Well, Jim, you need to do this next, you need to do that. So then we go back, we do 5 nights at Webster's, and we sell out Webster's as well. And then the guys will say, right, Jim, the plan next is we do this, and I'm completely in their hands. You know, so whatever you think's the way to go, that's where we'll go. But as I said, it's taken a life of its own. It does cover, I heard a little bit of the interview, it does cover lots of different areas. Which wasn't the plan at the start, but you then start to, let's have a bit of that and a bit of this, and then before you know it, you're covering all these different bases, and I think that kind of resonates with people. And my quick story was, and I told the guys this, was I've just recently retired and worked for the NHS, big organisation, obviously, so every time the play's on, I'll circulate that around the whole place.
Now you're a full-time babysitter.
And a full-time babysitter. And I get an email about 4 weeks after the second run there. Guy says, hello Jim, I don't know you. He said, but I got a flyer from someone else in the work. He said, went to see a play. He says, my mum's a mad Celtic fan, and I bought tickets for Christmas, and I went along to see the play. And needless to say, we were wetting myself. It was so funny, the actors were brilliant, so well written, blah blah blah. And she said that he said that it reminded him so much of his mother's father, his grandfather, and his mother got quite emotional at it. Because the Tam character, she felt really close to her dad in this, and I'm thinking, daft wee story. And she said that to her son, that apart from the grandwains, that's the best ever present you've ever got me. So I'm sharing that with the guys, thinking that's positive feedback. And James is saying that, well, that's who the theatre kind of gets you. And you're thinking, it's a daft wee story. But his mother's father died not long after that season, and he was like Tam. He couldn't watch the games. He was too nervous. And all this kind of stuff, and she felt so close to him, and I'm thinking, he's a nutter, how can you feel close to him? But that was such a kind of lovely story that kind of summed up the whole thing. You're thinking, you're writing these wee daft stories, but all
it impacts people's
life as well, because what I was always keen to kind of stay away from, I'm not a big fan of football plays where you go along and have a big sing-song, because that's why you go to the games. You go to the games with a big
Who does that?
Well, I think every play I've ever seen, I mean, I've tried to go and see the last 20-30 years, if there's a player at Celtic, I'll go and see it in Scotland. And if it's a Rangers play, I went to see it for research purposes only. So I would clarify that. And but that was a big thing. And fair dues, it's sold out, and it's a big sing-song, but basically, if you're trying to get people to come into the theatre, here's a wee story for you. And if you want to sing songs, well, you can do that at the game, or on supporters' buses, or whatever it is. But this is, let's just concentrate on this, because we talked about it before, and one of the guys said, well, you never walk alone. No, it's just, you know, it's about a story, and I don't know if you covered it before, but the thing that appealed to me was the fact that the first play I did was about 1967. It was meant to be about Lisbon, but everyone else will do Lisbon, I'll do Scotland. But the demographic of people who went to see football in 1967 compared to now is completely different. Very few women went to football, very few kids went to football. You look at it now, and that's why I was keen that it's going to be a father and daughter, because the easy options, you do 2 mates go to the game, that's life basically, but a father and a daughter, and the only reason that the daughter goes because he's no sons type of thing, so she gets indoctrinated and she's doomed, basically. That's how it was. But I don't know the numbers, but I'd imagine that it's a pretty high percentage of females and kids go to the games, because again, I'll do a plug for the next one. The next one's called Bend It Like Brattbakk. It's about 1965, but we'll come to that at a different time. And an interesting thing is when you go back to those days, and my father worked, the guys of that generation, they worked 5.5 days every week. They stopped at lunchtime on a Saturday and then it's straight to the game and a few pints. And the last thing they want to do is take their kids to the game. And they would never take, or very few would take their wives to the game. So the whole thing is completely changed now. It's a kind of family day out. And that was what I was going to try and get in it as well. It is a kind of, it's a dad and a daughter, and how it impacts, because she's as mental as he is. Basically. So,
The environment's changed so much as well. I think all
Absolutely.
Seater Stadiums
following the tail
lended
report,
itself
when
to
they had
this
do
change,
that,
you know.
they had to do that. And yeah, so it's more of a family day out, but even with that, the kind of some of the language and the singing still isn't improved as much as it should do. But yeah, that's the kind of background for.
Well, we're looking forward to the show, Jim. So well done to get this far, and we can't wait to come along and see it.
Cheers.
Thank you all for coming on to Celtic State of
you.
Mind. And for everyone watching, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you all, and good luck for the show.
Thanks,
Thank
Paul.
you. Cheers.